Hello and welcome to another OKD briefing. Today we have with us Zack Zlotnik and Neal Gompa, two members of the OKD working group. Zack's been an engineer and a DevOps and doing all kinds of things here at Red Hat. And Neal, you probably, if you haven't met Neal, you probably haven't been in the community too much because he's been in the Fedora community, the CentOS community, and probably a bazillion other ones that I don't know. But they've been very active in this new initiative that we're going to have them introduce today that brings together the CentOS Stream community, the CoreOS communities, and the OKD community to introduce something called CentOS Stream CoreOS for OKD, otherwise known as SCOS for OKD. So I'm going to let Zack take it away, and we will have some Q&A at the end and a little conversation. But please do, take it away. Thanks, Zack.
Yeah. So Neal and I today are introducing CentOS Stream CoreOS SCOS for OKD. Just to get started, just a quick refresher. What is OKD? OKD is the community distribution of Kubernetes that powers Red Hat OpenShift. Optimized for continuous application development and multi-tenant deployment, OKD adds developer and operation-centric tools on top of Kubernetes to enable rapid application development, easy deployment and scaling, and long-term lifecycle maintenance for small and large teams. OKD provides a complete open-source container application platform, including its bundled operating system, Fedora CoreOS. What is CentOS Stream? CentOS Stream is a free open source project that takes about 80 to 90% of the work we were doing on RHEL in private and makes that work public. This makes our development process much more transparent and allows partners, customers, and developers to see where RHEL is going in the next minor version. It enables them to collaborate with us and potentially affect change in the next minor release before it gets released to the public. So this is an overview of what the enterprise Linux ecosystem looks like today. On the left is Fedora, which is a community-owned space focused primarily on OS innovation, architecture changes, and other use cases and experiments and things like that. Fedora releases a new major release every 6 months. In the middle is CentOS Stream, which is a shared space between the community and Red Hat, which is focused on the future of enterprise Linux. By including a newer kernel version and newer user space packages, CentOS Stream provides a continuous release stream, which will eventually become the next RHEL minor version release. And then on the right, we have RHEL, which is a private space focused on today's enterprise. It prioritizes stability, security, and performance, as well as a more measured release cadence of a minor version every 6 months and a major release every 3 years. Additionally, RHEL has errata feeds, which only provide bug fixes and security updates, but not new features. What is CoreOS? In summary, CoreOS is a minimal operating system designed to only have the bare minimum required for running containerized workloads. Operating system updates get applied automatically on a transactional basis, meaning that one can roll back to a previous known good state should something go awry. The base operating system itself comes with popular container tools such as Podman, Scopio, and Cryo. Configuration and customization of one's CoreOS installation is possible via the Ignition configuration utility, which applies those configs and customizations the first time the operating system is booted. Tools which make CoreOS possible, such as Ignition and RPM-OS Tree, are themselves open source projects, which fully welcome community contributions. What is CentOS Stream CoreOS, or SCOS for short? CentOS Stream CoreOS brings all of the popular features from CoreOS to CentOS Stream. CentOS Stream CoreOS itself is a direct upstream of RCOS, which is Red Hat Enterprise Linux CoreOS. It provides a middle ground between Fedora's rapid release cadence and RHEL's more measured pace. CentOS Stream CoreOS itself is also an open source project, which welcomes contributions from the community as well. So it fits into this ecosystem here, which looks very similar to the enterprise Linux ecosystem. And that's because all the CoreOS releases are based upon their enterprise Linux analogs. And so they all include the components and features which make them distinctly CoreOS, such as the immutable base operating system, the transactional updates, and the container optimizations. As with their enterprise Linux analogs, Fedora receives updates and changes first, and that includes the latest CoreOS components, latest container tools, in addition to the latest kernel and user space packages. CentOS Stream CoreOS receives those updates and aims to track just ahead of RCOS, which can eventually become the next RCOS release. RCOS itself is the CoreOS-based enterprise Linux operating system that is bundled with OpenShift. And so, what does all of this mean for OKD? In short, there are now 2 OKD release streams. There's the original OKD on Fedora CoreOS, which everyone knows and loves, and there is now OKD, which is based on top of CentOS Stream CoreOS. And so this is a purely additive change. And what this means is you can now choose which underlying base operating system to run your OKD cluster on. An advantage of OKD on SCOS is that it brings a more enterprise Linux-like operating system option to OKD users, which itself can provide a preview of the next OpenShift release. Behind OKD on SCOS are the same great people, the same great community, and the same support channels. So what does this mean for OKD on Fedora CoreOS? In short, nothing will change. OKD on Fedora CoreOS will continue to be available. It will remain under active development. It will receive bug updates, security fixes, etc. And the underlying operating system itself, Fedora CoreOS, will continue to be available completely independently of OKD. So now I'm going to turn it over to Neal to go through how OKD on SCOS fits into the community. Neal?
Yeah. So thanks, Zach. So in terms of how OKD how CentOS Stream CoreOS fits with the community and OKD on SCOS fits, it's going to be not too different from what you see today with OKD on FCOS. So SCOS development is happening under the CentOS Cloud SIG. Folks from the Fedora CoreOS working group, as well as OKD working group people, will work with the CentOS community under the Cloud SIG to support CentOS Stream CoreOS, and it will be built in through a transparent pipeline through the Operate First Community Cloud. Each of these components, OKD, FCOS, and SCOS, will be developed and managed separately through their own communities, though there will be tight collaboration across all three. With all that said, how do we get involved? So with the OKD working group, we've got our websites with OKD.io and the documentation on docs.okd.io. All this is managed on GitHub at github.com/OpenShift/OKD. If you are a member of the Kubernetes Slack, you can check out OpenShift users. The working group members, as well as the larger community we're talking about here, are available on Matrix at okd:fedoraproject.org. And we have video conference meetings every couple of weeks, and you can see the calendar there at the calendar fedoraproject.org/OKD. For the CentOS Cloud Special Interest Group, the main communication vehicle is through IRC on libera.chat, on the channel being #CentOS-Cloud. You can also interact with the CentOS community through the mailing list on CentOS Devel, and they have regular meetings on IRC, which can be found on the CentOS community calendar. For Fedora CoreOS, we have a matrix room as well, CoreOS:fedoraproject.org. They are managing their project on GitHub at github.com/CoreOS/Fedora CoreOS tracker. There is also a discussion forum and mailing list, as well as weekly meetings. So, a great way to get started and help out, join the Cloud SIG or the CentOS Cloud SIG and the OKD working group. Consider deploying OKD on the SCOS MVP that's coming real soon now. And we'd love to hear from you and all the folks that are excited about running OKD in their next project or their next environment or all that sort of thing.
Okay, that's the end of the deck.
Awesome. Well, that actually, it's a really great place to land, because I think one of the things that this project and this initiative highlights is the collaboration across so many different communities, and the communication that we need to continue to have around roadmaps for CoreOS, for Fedora CoreOS, CentOS Stream CoreOS, CentOS Stream, OKD, and OCP itself gets complex. So I think one of the things that we're trying to do here is to make sure people all know where they can get in touch with us if they have questions, and to make sure that there is a flavor of OKD that works for them. One thing we might ask ourselves is, why now? Why now are we doing OKD SCOS? And why is this important? And one of the things that I've heard over and over, both internally at Red Hat and outside, is trying to get a better signal and feedback for OpenShift on RHEL CoreOS, and a better signal and feedback for RHEL itself as we iterate, as we try and get Kubernetes and OCP working with the new releases. And so it's really important to all of us in the community and at Red Hat and wherever you're deploying OKD to get your feedback. And so we're not just joking when we say we'd love to hear from you. We need to hear from you on this. And around, I'm told, mid-September, end of September, we should have this MVP build of OKD for CentOS Stream CoreOS, and we're really looking for people to give us, do some testing, deploy it at scale, deploy it on different clouds, different infrastructures, bare metal, whatever you have, and give us your feedback. And part of doing that, you'll be able to see, if you go to any of these sites with each of the communities, places where you can post issues and join discussions online. We do almost everything using GitHub issues and discussions. So if you go to okd.io, you'll find all the trails and paths to give your input. And so I think, for me, one of the key things here is making sure that we have lots of different flavors of OKD, hence the idea, the concept of OKD as a stream. We're looking forward to next week. We're going to record yet another video briefing with the folks who are building the tectonic build pipelines that are deploying on Operate First. So you have a chance at multiple layers to learn about how we build CentOS Stream, how we then add the payload for OKD, and how to debug that, and how to get involved at whether it's testing and deploying OKD, it's adding feedback, finding bugs, looking for new features. All of that stuff is, I can't emphasize enough. Get involved, give us your feedback, and reach out to us, because Neal, you're wonderful. You've been in the Fedora community, you're in the CentOS community. I just expect that, you feel like a Red Hatter to me most of the time. But, I know you're not. I know you're external, but you're around so much. From your point of view, what is the impact of having these multiple streams of OKD? Is it something we should be watching, or how is that going to impact where you sit?
So from my point of view, like looking at this as an OKD consumer and using this, I personally prefer running OKD on Fedora CoreOS, because I feel that the best value of running it with Fedora CoreOS is you get to see the far future, you get to see all the integration points, and you get to play with a lot of the fresher tech that just isn't flowing down into the enterprise-y space just yet. But the flip side of this is there are a lot of people who, for various reasons, need to integrate stacks that aren't necessarily supported. And I'm using supported in scare quotes, because nothing about this is really supported in the Red Hat sense or the vendor sense or whatever. But like, some people get tetchy when you try to run things that were, targeted for relish, CentOS-y things on Fedora, and they get kind of mad. And putting OKD on top of CentOS Stream gives you the ability to run that same stack and make people less mad at you, and you can use it easier in production deployments and things like that. I also feel that, having a CentOS Stream CoreOS is going to engender a larger group of people who have been interested in this sort of thing, going all the way back to the Fedora Atomic days, where they've wanted to have something like this from the CentOS project. Having this now in the CentOS project means those people have something that they are interested and able to work on, and I love to see those people contribute to CentOS Stream and improve container tooling, immutable platform stuff. It actually uses for not just for OKD and not just for Kubernetes, but I want to see more of all the things that people can do with this technology. And so, from my perspective, I think that this is going to be great because it helps people be able to do more with it. It opens up the window in people who are going to be willing and able to run OKD. And crossing my fingers here a little bit, I'm kind of hoping that this means that OpenShift as a product and as a project becomes more transparent and more open to contribution across the board. Because that's, I, as a community contributor and a community user, like to see those things because they make me have better confidence in all of this. And so at the end of it, for me, this is all about improving the confidence in OKD, Kubernetes platforms, and helping everyone feel more comfortable with what is admittedly a really big and complicated system.
All right. And Zach, any final words about the impact of this, even internally on Red Hat, all the different projects that have been looking for this?
Yeah. So the part that I work on, which is the machine config operator, there's a lot of it's one of those things where we want to make that as good as it can be, and so being able to test it in a variety of different contexts and a variety of different situations is only going to help us. It's only going to help us make that better. And in addition to that, it's not just that particular component. It's the ecosystem as a whole. Like some of the for example, some of the CI stuff that's around it. Like for example, OpenShift pipelines, Tecton. That's something that's kind of near and dear to me as kind of a former DevOpsman, if you will. It's something that I kind of got involved with there. It still kind of piques my interest. And not only that, it also will help. Not only that, but also since we're building this on Operate First, it will allow us to get a better. It will allow us to learn more about what it's like to put something like that together, and to build it in the open, so to speak.
In some ways, the future is all about the pipelines.
Yeah.
I think that's really what this initiative really has opened up in my head, is how OKD is a payload for lots of different CoreOSs, hopefully even more than the 3 we've talked about today. We'll get in line and see if we can do that. We're also planning on taking all of these Tecton pipelines and pushing them out to Tecton Hub. And so we'll, as soon as they're available, we'll be pushing them there and making them available for other people to explore, learn about, and help debug, hopefully. And Operate First, we'll definitely have another talk about that coming up soon, and demo that and how you can get involved in that community as well. So thank you guys for taking the time today, and thank you if you're listening and watching this and out there for taking the time to listen all the way through, and we'd love to get you involved. So please do come to okd.io or the CentOS Stream Cloud SIG or the Fedora CoreOS world. Find us. We're around. Lots of us are in all 3 places. So you'll definitely find us. And please do let us know if you have any feedback or input on the OKD SCOS MVP. We're eager to hear your feedback. So thanks all, and thanks Neal and Zach for joining me today. Take care.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. Take care.